Welcome to the deep dive, where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights. Okay, so artificial intelligence, it's surging into almost every corner of our lives, right?
Absolutely. Transforming industries, how we work.
Even how we relax.
Yeah.
But what happens when AI steps into areas with, really big real-world consequences, like things that directly affect people, the planet?
Yeah.
I'm talking about impact assessment.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today, this really crucial topic of responsible and ethical AI use in impact assessment, or IA for short.
Right, IA.
In our deep dive today, it's anchored in a pretty groundbreaking set of principles. These were just published by the International Association for Impact Assessment. You might know them as IAIA.
Oh, IAIA.
It's in their special publication series, number 16. Came out just this past February 2025.
Okay, brand new then.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to unpack these principles for use of AI in IA. Think of them as like vital guardrails.
That's a good way to put it, guardrails.
Yeah.
Designed to steer us through this really rapidly changing landscape.
And this isn't just about understanding cool tech, is it? It's fundamentally about making sure, well, human well-being and environmental protection are front and center in an AI-driven future.
Exactly. And here's something I found really fascinating about the process itself.
Oh, yeah.
The IAIA volunteer team, they weren't just, theorizing in a room somewhere. When they were synthesizing the initial feedback for these principles, they actually used 3 different AI tools: Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude.ai for triangulation.
Wow, okay. So AI helping humans figure out how humans should use AI. That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? But, and this is the key bit, while they used AI for that initial feedback synthesis,
Right.
they made absolutely sure that the final synthesis, preparing the draft, that was all done by humans.
Ah, okay. Human oversight at the crucial stage.
Precisely. Before it went to expert review and formal adoption.
Ah,
It's actually
wow.
a fantastic, real-world example of AI working with human expertise, not, replacing it.
Yeah.
Especially for something this sensitive.
Yeah, setting ethical guidelines needs that human touch. Okay, so let's unpack this more. Before we jump right into the principles, maybe for listeners who are a bit newer to this,
Sure.
can you just briefly set the stage? What is impact assessment exactly, and how does AI even fit in?
Okay, yeah. So at its core, impact assessment is basically a process, a systematic one.
Right?
It's designed to figure out the future consequences of something that's being proposed.
Yeah.
A project, a development.
Like a new dam or a big factory.
Exactly. Or a huge infrastructure project. IA looks ahead and asks, what's this going to mean for the environment, for local communities, for the economy, before anyone decides to go ahead?
So it's about foresight, planning.
That's it. Foresight and planning.
And when we talk about AI coming into this, well, the IAIA has a specific definition they're using, right? Similar to the EU AI Act.
It essentially describes AI as a machine-based system.
Yeah.
One that's designed to operate with different levels of autonomy. And it might adapt after it's deployed. And its goal, whether explicit or implicit, is to take the input it gets.
Data, presumably.
Right, data.
Yeah.
And infer from that how to generate outputs. Things like predictions, content recommendations, or decisions that can influence, physical or virtual environments.
Okay, so like a sophisticated digital brain making sense of tons of information to guide decisions.
That's a good analogy. And what's really important to clarify here
Yeah.
is that the tools we often use in IA, things like satellite imagery, drones, monitoring devices, those aren't AI themselves.
Right, they're just collecting data.
Exactly. But AI can be used to interpret the huge amounts of data these devices record, finding patterns, spotting anomalies, much faster than humans could alone.
Ah, I see. So the AI isn't the camera, but it's the smart system processing the pictures from the camera.
Spot on.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can immediately see how AI could be incredibly valuable there. Speeding up analysis, maybe spotting things we'd miss.
Huge potential.
Which, of course, leads us perfectly into why we need these principles, these guardrails.
Absolutely. The potential is there, but so are the risks if we're not careful.
Okay, let's dive in then. The IAIA laid out 8 core principles.
That's right. 8 principles for responsible use.
First up, Principle 1, responsibility.
Yeah, and this one is, it's the bedrock, foundational.
Okay.
It says very clearly that humans people must keep full responsibility and accountability for how AI is applied.
Not just some responsibility, but full responsibility.
Full responsibility.
Yeah.
Throughout all the IA processes.
Wow. Okay, so that means?
Everything. From the initial decision, should we even use AI here? Through overseeing it, checking the content it generates, the regulatory review stages, public comments,
Right through to the end.
right through to the final conclusions and recommendations, the whole assessment. Humans are accountable, period.
So no blame the algorithm excuses. If an AI suggests something, the human expert is the one on the hook for that suggestion and what happens next.
Precisely. It keeps the ethical burden and the final decision firmly on human shoulders. We're talking about real impact on lives, on ecosystems.
Yeah, not just data points. Okay, that's critical.
And building right on that accountability.
Yeah.
The next principle makes sure we actually know how AI is being used.
Ah, okay. Which is principle 2, transparency.
Yes, transparency.
This feels like a game changer for honesty, for trust.
It really is. It says that when you use AI in IA, you must openly disclose how you used it.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning you need to name the specific tool or system.
Well, like we used ChatGPT version X or whatever.
Exactly. And the date and how it was used. Was it for drafting text, analyzing data, generating maps?
And this applies across the board. Final report, data generation.
Even in consultations. And this is crucial if you're soliciting comments, say from the public or stakeholders.
Yeah.
You are obliged to make sure they also disclose if they used AI tools to prepare their comments.
Whoa, okay. That levels the playing field.
It does. And there's another layer. If human participants' input, maybe from interviews or surveys, is going to be analyzed by AI, they must be told about this and offered the chance to withdraw their participation, following standard ethical engagement protocols.
That's a really important ethical consideration, consent, and knowing how your words are being processed.
It's about agency and data integrity in this new AI era.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to principle 3. Integration with regulatory, standardized, or approved methods sounds a bit formal.
It sounds formal, but the idea is pretty straightforward. AI tools should add to or complement the methods we already trust.
Like established scientific principles, standard ways of calculating things, data protection rules.
Exactly. They shouldn't replace those methods or supersede them or break the rules.
Right.
Unless that specific AI tool or method has been officially certified by regulatory authorities, proven to be scientifically valid for that purpose.
Got it. So AI enhances, it doesn't undermine the existing rigor. It's like adding a powerful new lens to your microscope, not throwing out the microscope itself.
That's a great analogy. It has to play by the established scientific and regulatory rules.
Makes sense. Next, principle 4, expertise and oversight.
Right. So we know AI can offer big advantages, right?
Yeah.
Analyzing huge data sets, maybe working in hazardous areas.
Yeah, potentially saving time, money, improving field studies.
All true. But professional human oversight is non-negotiable. Absolutely essential. Meaning experts have to conduct independent verification of what the AI puts out. You can't just take the AI's output at face value.
So the AI is like a really powerful assistant maybe, but never the boss.
Exactly. It assists, it speeds things up, it might find things we miss, but it's not the sole decision maker. It's not the unverified source of truth. Humans, the experts, are still the final arbiters.
Ensure speed doesn't trump judgment.
Precisely.
Okay, principle 5, awareness of limitations and risks. This feels crucial.
It really is, a cornerstone. Basically, if you're using AI, you have a duty to actively look for and deal with its limits and risks.
You can't just assume it's perfect.
Far from it. You need human oversight specifically to catch and prevent errors stemming from these limitations. You have to know what you're working with, warts and all.
So what kind of risks are we talking about here? What did the principles flag up?
They highlighted several key ones. First, bias. Bias baked into the data the AI learned from, leading to skewed results.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out. Potentially amplified.
Exactly. Then there are AI hallucinations.
Where it just makes stuff up.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Presents false or misleading information as if it's fact. Very dangerous in IA.
Definitely. What else?
Incomplete data, especially for remote places or knowledge that isn't digitized, indigenous knowledge, for example.
Things AI might just completely miss.
Yes. And related to that, a potential lack of attention to cultural values or tacit knowledge stuff that's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
Also, ambiguous criteria for judging how significant an impact is.
Which requires nuanced judgment.
Which AI might struggle with. And finally, a big one. Just not knowing where the AI's data came from or how credible it is.
Wow. That's a lot to watch out for. It really demands critical thinking from the user.
Immense critical thinking. And domain expertise. You need to know the subject matter deeply to spot these pitfalls.
That point about missing cultural nuances or non-digitized info leads us nicely into the next one, Principle 6, vulnerability and privacy.
Yes, This principle really drills down into the human element, especially concerning those most at risk.
How so?
It underscores that AI tools might just fail to accurately represent the views, needs, perspectives of certain groups.
Like indigenous communities, vulnerable populations, maybe people in conflict zones, marginalized groups.
Exactly, those groups.
Yeah.
So any AI output about them needs to be either rigorously validated by other means,
Cross-checked.
yes, or treated purely as supplementary information. Background noise, almost.
And crucial.
AI should never replace direct communication with affected people, or the expert judgment that comes from real engagement.
So technology can't substitute for talking to people, especially vulnerable people?
Absolutely not, and that ties into privacy.
Ah, yes. Sensitive personal info.
Things like data from resettlement plans, social impact assessments, health studies, that stuff needs strict oversight.
To prevent it being accidentally released or misused by the AI?
Precisely. The bottom line is, AI should only be used in IA if it fully respects people's rights, privacy, safety, non-discrimination principles, cultural beliefs, indigenous knowledge, and intellectual property.
That's a high bar, but absolutely necessary given the stakes.
It has to be. It's about ensuring technology serves humanity, protects the vulnerable.
Right. Okay, Principle 7. Competence in AI.
The one's pretty straightforward, but vital.
Which is?
Effective, efficient, and ethical AI use needs competence. Skill.
You wouldn't let just anyone operate complex machinery.
Exactly the same logic.
Okay.
AI should only be used in IA contexts by people who have the right professional AI knowledge and experience.
So it's not enough just to know how to type a prompt into ChatGPT.
Definitely not. You need to understand, at least to some degree, what's happening under the hood. You need to be able to critically evaluate the output, understand its strengths, its weaknesses.
It's a specialized tool, needs skilled operators.
That's the essence of it, to avoid misuse, misinterpretation.
Got it. And finally, Principle 8, model collapse. Now, this sounds intriguing, maybe not something most people think about.
Probably not, but it's a really important sort of forward-looking risk.
Okay, explain model collapse.
This principle says we need to make active efforts to stop AI-generated output that's been used in an IA from accidentally becoming part of the data sets used to train new generative AI tools down the line.
Why? What's the danger if that happens?
Because if AI starts training on content generated by other AIs over and over, it can lead to this thing called model collapse, where the quality degrades over time. The AI's output becomes increasingly inaccurate, maybe even nonsensical.
Because it's feeding on itself, an echo chamber.
Exactly. It's like it starts generating stuff based on its own artificial reality rather than fresh, real-world data.
Yeah.
It creates a feedback loop of potentially misinformation. The AI essentially starts to forget the real world.
Wow. That's like that old game of telephone, but played by AI with itself until the message is totally garbled.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. And it's a serious risk for maintaining accuracy in the future, especially for something critical like IA. Needs proactive management.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've covered all 8. Responsibility, transparency, integration, expertise and oversight, awareness of limitations, vulnerability and privacy, competence, and model collapse. That's quite a framework.
It really is comprehensive, and if you boil it down, the central message from IAIA is pretty clear. While AI offers, immense potential streamlining things, enhancing analysis, human oversight, human responsibility, and critical thinking are still absolutely paramount, non-negotiable.
Especially in a field like IA, where the decisions have such profound real-world consequences for communities, for environments.
Exactly. You can't automate ethics or ultimate responsibility.
And IAIA isn't just putting these out and walking away, right? They plan to update them.
That's right. They recognize how fast AI is evolving, so the plan is to revise these principles at least every 2 years.
Wow, every 2 years.
Until they become really embedded as standard best practice. They're actively trying to keep the guardrails evolving alongside the technology itself.
That's smart. Necessary, really.
And what's really interesting, I think, is that these principles, responsibility, transparency, knowing the limits, needing competence and oversight, they aren't just for IA professionals.
Right. They have broader relevance. So let's bring it back to the listener. What does this all mean for you? We really encourage you to think about how these kinds of guardrails apply whenever you encounter AI, which is, let's face it, increasingly everywhere.
Easy life, whether it's, an AI summarizing a news article for you, or a customer service chatbot, or even AI art or music. Maybe start asking some questions.
Good idea.
Like what? Like who's actually responsible for what this AI is telling me or showing me? How transparent is its use? Do I even know it is AI?
And what might its built-in limitations or biases be? Is it missing something important?
Exactly. These IA principles give us a really useful lens, a way to think critically about AI's role, not just in big projects, but in our own lives. The deep dive, well, it continues long after the show ends.